getting the vocals to work on 57.
That was Steel.
Like,
Huh?
it just seems like
Steel. I mixed that this morning.
That one is cool because that was a different vibe of a song.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
I'm going to show it to you. I'll send it to you after the podcast.
57. We're using the 57 for the
And
vocal.
welcome to our real estate
We're doing
podcast.
a podcast. Pack Jones and Associates.
Right?
Let me talk about things that I know things about.
And we've got Burt Hoagland from Fairway Mortgage Company.
Hey!
Thank you,
Insert
Joel.
applause. I don't know.
Yeah, fun
Yeah, Burt.
fact. You guys both know that as I was getting licensed, I think I called like 3 people when I was taking the tests and stuff, and I was like, "Am I being dumb? Like, what can you talk me out of this? What should I avoid? What should I do?" Burt talked to me we had like an hour-long conversation, and you introduced me to my broker like within 24 hours, and just like got me going. So thank you, Burt.
And I typically do not do that. Actually.
Oh yeah, so Burt will not do that.
Dude, no.
Burt will not do that for you.
do it.
No, people hit me up a lot, and I'm like, give it a shot. But I, think through it, really look into it. Let's chat in a month, and if you want to do it, we'll have another conversation. But when you hit me up, I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. I think Joel would crush it, and you did.
Well, thank you.
And you made me look really good, so thank you.
Well, you make me look really good. Always, but the safety net. I think as with all things, like we all do music, and it's like with all things, it's like you get the good team together and people you can trust, because inevitably shit goes down and things don't go to plan. That's like the only thing you can plan on is something's going to happen, and you want people who are going to have your back and make sure that when those times happen, that you've got somebody you trust. So thank you for being that person.
It's just good
for
life
so
advice.
many of our clients, so many times.
Yeah, thank you. And it's, a little bit of me and a lot of my team. You've met a few of them. I'm lucky. I've got a lady who's pretty much my mom at this point, who I've been with for 10 years, and I'm going to give her a lot of the credit for that, for cleaning up disasters.
Team.
Yeah,
The
yep.
team's got to have teams. Okay, I made cheat sheets. We got bullet points.
Nice. All right.
Okay. Burt.
Uh-oh.
I want to get into buying a home. However, I look on social media and I'm so scared about everything I see. Interest rates are so high. Things are unaffordable. I'm hearing that real estate is the worst place to park my money, and that it's a fool's errand to buy a home.
Were you on TikTok?
Yeah, most of my life, yes,
Just
on
joking.
TikTok.
Okay, and that's a valid fear, because had I not been doing this for, 14 or so years right now, I would have no idea what would be real and what wouldn't be. But what you need to do, you have to look at the data, and you got to look at the big picture. And so most people are worried about 2008, right? We're all in it. We all talk to people, and everyone, for whatever reason, think that we are right around the corner from 2008, right? The reality is people don't know what happened in 2008 to even cause that. And when you go all the way back and look at all the data, and I'm talking all the way back to the Great Depression, if you go back to 1944 until now, there's only been 4 years in Utah, and this is Utah specific, where real estate has gone down. Right. Four years. Okay. Oh, thank you, Joel. 4 years that real estate has gone down from 1944 until now. Now, around the country in 1990 and 1991, it did go down a little bit nationwide, but in Utah it was flat. So we are one of the, in my opinion, the safest housing market in the entire country historically. And when you look, you have to look at the big picture, and you got to know the math, and you got to remember too, right? Here's a good thing to remember when you're on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be. People get paid per click. And so the people that make the most outrageous fear-mongering that are like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I got to go tell everybody. I'm going to share it because this is so monumental to everyone I know. Put your radar up, if it's negative, because people make a lot of money off that click.
Okay, so you've got me. I'm sold. I want to buy a house. However, rates are really high right now compared to where they were when my brother bought his house 4 years ago. shouldn't I be waiting until the rates drop a little bit and see what happens, and then maybe my payment can be a little bit more affordable if I just wait and see what happens, and maybe the rate will drop next year or something like that?
You can. This is controversial. So, honest opinion, right? Maybe you should wait. Because if you're trying to buy, okay, let's say you need like a 5-bedroom home, 2-bath, for your family, whatever it might be, and you can't make that payment right now because of the rate environment, maybe you should wait. But if it's financially sound and and get with a good lender, because they're going to tell you your debt to income ratio. We pretty much put you under a microscope and like you're under a personal investigation when you get a loan, right? So we know I couldn't put anyone in a bad loan if I wanted to. But if you work with a good lender, there's ways to make the payment manageable. And if it's your dream home, you got to remember you're not going to be in that payment forever, right? Typically, people's income will go up over time because people, I would hope, are going to make more money over time. You're going to pay your mortgage down and you're going to build equity. And so this is something really important that I wish everybody knew, right? And I'm going to try and do math in my head, and it might not come out quite right, but we're going to give it a shot. So let's say you're going to buy a $400,000 home, right? And you're a little bit uncomfortable with your debt to income ratio. If you can get into that home, and we're going to go off very conservative historic appreciation in Utah, and we're going to go off of 4%, which is lower than historic and lower than projected for Utah, right? You got to remember you're going to gain $16,000 in equity per year just by owning that home. So there's not.
Well, and also that $16,000 the first year. If it appreciates 14 or 4%
Yep.
the next year, it's even more than 16,000.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's gonna can't do that math in my head, but to use that number, right? So you got to think, okay, maybe my payment is $300 higher than I want. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I can't go to like the steakhouse I want to once a week anymore. But you got to remember that you're going to be making, what is that, $1,200 a month? I'm trying to do math. Something like that. Whatever. You got to remember, you're going to be building that equity just for living in your home. And here's the other thing. Maybe you don't like that home. Maybe you're in there and you're like, my payment's high. You can go ahead and sell that home after a 2-year period, and you're not going to be capital gains on it, right? There's no other investment out there that you can do that with. And maybe you get in with a 5% down payment, right? Or maybe 3%, maybe no down payment if you're looking at that price range. When you do that, you're going to take your $3,000, $4,000, $10,000, and you're going to turn that into $16,000 or $32,000 over a 2-year period, plus your amortization gain. And if you compare that to the stock market, like you put $5,000 in the S&P 500, we're going to go way aggressive. We're going to go at a 10% return. You're going to make like, I don't know, again, I don't have a calculator, but maybe you're going to make like $4,000 or $5,000 in profit as opposed to your $32,000 that you would have made over a 2-year period. And the reason for that is because you're leveraging an asset. So you're building the equity off the $400,000, not the $5,000.
So what I'm hearing you say is maybe there's a bit of a gap when people hear percentages of, okay, home prices are going to increase 4% year over year, and they go, well, okay, that's a 4% return on my investment. I can do better than 4%, but what it sounds like you're saying is most people don't realize that they're only maybe leveraging 0% down or a few $1,000s, but they're actually leveraging a $400,000 loan that's making them 4% year after year. They're not putting $400,000 into an index fund and making 4% on that. They're thinking about the $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000.
Exactly. So an easy way to think about it: if I gave you $5,000, would you want to put $5,000 in the stock market at a 10% return? Or if I gave you $400,000, would you want to put the $400,000 in the stock market at a 4% return?
Awesome. It sounds like a no-brainer.
And then from a more practical standpoint, not only is it like an investment, it's the only investment you live in. So it's what we talk about a lot with especially first-time home buyers when they get really worried about that. Like, oh, this is, what if I'm paying $2,500 a month right now? My rent is only $2,000 a month. But that $2,500 a month, your rent is going to go up next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. Your $2,500 mortgage is going to stay the same. Your taxes will go up, and there will be a few things that go up, but not like rent. During like the 2021 time, we had 29% appreciation in home prices, which was honestly unsustainable. Like, we're kind of seeing that now. It's been a little bit flat for the last couple of years as we start to catch up. So that's the other part I've been talking with buyers a lot about is like, yeah, we've seen 1 or 2% appreciation the last couple of years. So it's a little slower than the historic average, but that's because people were overpaying by 10% in 2021. So we're just starting to catch up to those home prices.
So what you guys have been doing this a lot longer than I have. I've seen a couple of trends, but so what happens to home prices and affordability if it seems like obviously, let's say the rate drops 1.5% next year. What does that do to affordability, and what does that do to home prices here in Utah?
That's going to be chaos if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number for it. I can't remember exactly, but like every percent is going to unlock like 1.5 million people, and then don't hold me to that. I wish I had notes in front of me.
I've seen that number too, and I can't remember
you know what I mean.
That many more people enter the market that you're competing against.
Because people are going to be able to afford. Their payment's going to be lower, and it's going to bring people out. And the problem is, here's something that people don't think about, right? The only way to create more inventory typically is to build. But with rates being high, builders can't build like they were, right? Because your construction loans are higher. Credit unions were typically, it's called vertical financing that they use for building. Those rates are higher. And so the higher rates has made it very, very difficult to build, which has hurt inventory. So we've got people just on the sideline waiting for that, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can afford that. And then we get back in the bidding war. Like, I've told this story a couple times, but this was in 2021 in West Jordan. I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 90. We had over 90 offers on a property.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There was one in Sandy too, where they priced it $50,000 too low.
Yeah, and dude,
insane.
I would take my rates aren't 8%, but I take an 8% rate any day rather than going to an auction with 90 other people. They're going to pay $150,000 over what that home's actually worth.
Well, and that was a pretty regular thing in 21 and 22. You had to pay like almost 10%, like between 7 and 10% over list price on a pretty regular basis, and waive contingencies in order to even get a home. Yeah. So even in 21 and 22, when we were doing that with buyers, I was telling them, hey, listen, you're paying a future price for this home. You're not paying the price of what this home is actually worth right now, technically. No. You're paying the future price for this home, so you'll start seeing appreciation in a few years versus these next couple of years. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, then you have these last couple of years where it's been a little flat, partially because you mentioned 8%. Like, we've been between 6.5% and 8% interest rates for these last couple of years. So affordability is tough because we had that 29% appreciation.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to give an example, right? Joel, I actually took you to that fourplex I got in Ogden.
Yep.
Got a way high rate, super high. Mm-hmm. Like I can't even believe I have a rate that high, and I'm a lender. But best investment I've ever made. Like that. Like I bought a lot of multi-units prior to that and got the rate. I got a 2.5 rate on one of them.
I still lose sleep about not just selling a ton of guitars and trying to make that happen.
There'll be more. Don't worry. But I mean, like. People back then were like, dude, what are you doing buying like in this market? I'm like, dude, I'm getting a good deal.
Okay. So let's say rates do go down, and that's when you start doing refinances for people, mm-hmm. right? You get real busy. So that what happens then is the rate comes down, and you find a product for them and refinance the loan, and either their payment goes down or whatever, and you do a lot of those. So payment. Just because you buy a house doesn't mean the payment's going to stay fixed for the entire time you own the house. How many times when people have gone in to buy a house have they been able to get their purchase price reduced after owning it for a few years?
0 times.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound like it's an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get to go back to the seller and say, hey,
there's a
can
term
you give me
for
another
that.
like 30,000?
Yeah. It's called cap rate. It's an investment term. Mm-hmm. Your cap rate will never change. Whatever you acquire that property for, your cap rate will never change, and you always need, and we don't need to get in the weeds on that, but you always need to know your cap rate.
So it sounds like if somebody's thinking about waiting for the rates to go down, at a house they're looking at right now, if that house costs $400,000 and they're looking, well, if the rate was 1% less on this $400,000 house, and in a year the rate changes, that $400,000 probably isn't going to buy that same house. Does that sound accurate?
No, I mean, if we're talking like the historic average, you mentioned 4%. The historic average in Utah is 5% per year. When you adjust for inflation, it's like 3.5, yada, yada, yada. But historic average is 5% per year. 21 and 22, 2021 and 22 were outliers for that. But like Burt said, there aren't many outliers on the downside. Like 2009, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think were some of the only
11, yeah.
negative
12,
years.
it turned around. And then you know what was cool about 12? It was in March of 2012. From March of 2012 till the end of the year, they went up 8%. So when that rebound happened, they happened quick.
Well, and by the time I got in 2014, we were already back to median home price that it was before, and we were beyond it. And it was in 2015, 2016, it was still appreciating at like 8, 9, 10%. In some areas, even higher. Sugar House appreciated super, like way faster in a lot of areas. But, sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh, I actually do have a chart that I remember because I barely put it together, so I'm going to quote real numbers
We'll edit
right now.
it, and it'll be like you had it.
This is actually cool. So this goes back to housing nationally, all the way back to, I think it's 1944. But there's only been one time, if you bought a home and you kept it for 10 years, that you went negative after a 10-year period. And that was 2006. And then in 2016, you were down 3%. But if you hold a home for 10 years, every year since 1942, and when you show the chart, which will pop it up wherever you want, when you show that chart, I mean, some of these returns are just crazy, like 130%, 110. Like there's truly no better investment that I know of, unless you're like a Bitcoin bro that bought like 10 years ago, in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and so let's get to the other part of that. The Salt Lake Valley in particular is super unique in that we're a lot like the Bay Area. So we are basically out of land. You'll see some open land on the west side. Almost all of that has been spoken for. Developers or like Kennecott or whoever. A lot of it is just old tailing ponds from the mines like Daybreak. But, we're basically just out of land. So when you have, it's basic economics, right? Scarcity in a resource means that resource is going to go up in price. So if you own land in the Salt Lake Valley specifically, there's not, unless things go horribly wrong, and there's a mass out migration of people, you're holding on to a really valuable asset.
I have another fun graph if you can show it, actually.
Send them all over.
This graph right here?
Yeah.
This one right here is fantastic. But
I'm just going to put it on my face.
If you look at buildable land in Utah, and there's a chart for it, it is equal to West Virginia. So we have as much buildable land as West Virginia.
That's crazy.
Because we have a lot of national parks and mountains and things you'll never be able to build on. But buildable land, we're like West Virginia, and we have the number one population, or the youngest population in the country. And people don't really think how that'll correlate to housing, but the culture here, people like to have families very young, and they like to have big families, and that turns into people buying houses at a certain point. So having the youngest population, and I think over the past decade, I think we were the number one population growth per capita in the entire country. And then when you put that in West Virginia, it just puts housing on steroids, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it really is, like we talked about builders. Builders right now, builders are having to provide these crazy incentives to even sell their standing inventory because so many people are waiting on the sidelines. So builders' profit margins are going down versus what they used to be. So they're not incentivized to build near as much as they could. Last I saw, we were 30,000 housing units short in Utah. And to make up for that, builders would have to hit it on overdrive so hard for so long. So we're kind of in a hole right now. So yeah, like you were saying, if you can afford to buy right now, I still think it's a good idea.
Okay, so we have less land available, less opportunities to buy because we have less inventory than is typical for the rest of the country. We call that federally, all right? So, and our rates, are rates run state by state, or are mortgage rates kind of the same across the country? And how do we get at a mortgage interest rate?
Sip of water before we get into this.
Yeah.
Let me clear my throat.
I believe Jerome Powell just decides how much he wants people to buy homes, and then let's go.
Okay. A lot of people, and I was guilty of it for a long time, have zero clue how mortgage rates work. And a good movie, if you can watch it, is The Big Short, which will give you a little bit of an insight to how that works. But great movie, and true, very factual. But The Big Short puts in perspective how mortgages. When you buy a home, right? We all own homes right here. That home is packaged with thousands of other mortgages, right? And it's called a bond. So like, a lot of us were born in the 80s, right? And we probably all got a bond that the grandma gave us, right? And you cash it in when you're like 18 years old, and you're like, hey, I got like $400 or whatever.
Yeah, sweet.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. But that's what a mortgage is, actually. It's a bond. So they take these massive amounts of mortgages, billions of dollars of mortgages. So like, and they put it in one package, and people buy parts of them as a bond. So like, you can buy the 10-year Treasury bond, 30-year bond, 2-year bond, they call them T-bills. And that is directly competing with the stock market, right? So you got to think about mortgage rates as directly correlated with the stock market. And they work inverse, right? And this is the part that I could not wrap my head around for a long time. And then I had to teach my brother, because I got my brother into mortgages. And I came up with a funny analogy, and for whatever reason, it just clicked with him. And I've told other people, and it just clicks. I'm going to try and do it.
Let's do this.
But you got to think of a bond, because the stock market, more money goes in, right? You keep putting money in the stock market. You're buying Nvidia or whatever it might be, or Tesla, and it keeps going up, or people don't like it and they sell and it goes down. Bonds are the exact opposite, and same with mortgage rates, right? So mortgage rates are tied to the bond market because your mortgage is a bond. And so the more investors that are buying into that bond, and the way I explained it to Ben, and it worked, is you've got your money, in the middle, right? And you got your stock market and you got your bond market. And here's all the money. And the more people that jump onto that bond market, they jump out of the stock market and they go into the bond market, the lower the rates get. So you got to think about like a spring, right? So you get all these people putting money, and it puts pressure on it, and the rates go down. And then that means that the stock market isn't doing good, right? Because they're pulling money out of the stock market and putting it in the bond market, meaning unemployment went up. There's economic turmoil. Any war, war used to have a big impact. I don't know why it doesn't anymore.
It still has like a 3-day impact.
Exactly. But a lot of bad, and I hate saying it, but a lot of, economic hardship pulls money out of the stock market, goes in the bond market, and that's why rates went down. So when COVID happened, a lot of people don't know this, but the Federal Reserve, and this is why they're under a lot of heat right now, and probably rightfully so, they were buying up to $80 billion a month in mortgage-backed securities.
Quantitative easing.
Yeah, dude, TJ, you should be a lender, dude. Like, for real. But, like, they were, no joke, $80 billion a month at certain points, buying mortgage-backed securities to artificially keep rates low. But to do that, they had to print the money, and that's where you get the money printing term, right? They were creating money, buying mortgage-backed securities, and you got to think of, like, my little analogy of they're jumping onto the bond market by printing money, and that's what drove rates to 2.5. That wasn't real. That wasn't real people buying. That was the Federal Reserve buying it, and they think they went a little too overboard, and now we're paying for it. But
the spring went the other way. It broke.
Now with the other way. Yep. Now people are jumping
launched
out of it. Yeah, it launched very quickly, and so that's what dictates mortgage rates: supply and demand. There's not a magic lever that Jerome Powell or anyone politically can just be like, hey, mortgage rates need to go down, and they pull the lever. It doesn't work like that. What they can do is print a bunch of money, which also causes inflation, so they're not going to do that anymore. And that's what will put pressure on the bond market, which will in turn get mortgage rates low. In 2018, 2019, before COVID, there was a little period of time where there was not a lot of market manipulation, like not a lot of bond buying from the government, and it wasn't completely normal, but relatively normal. Rates were about 4.5 back then, 4.5, 5. That, when all the chaos is over, hopefully we'll go back to that.
I've been telling people, and given I'm not a lender, I'm not an economist, I got a music.
You
degree.
should
Let's
be.
be real. What this is. But yeah, it feels to me like the equilibrium point is going to be somewhere between like 4.5% and 5.5%. Because I mean, I bought my house it was 4.85% in 2018, September of 2018. And it was a pretty steady market. We were still hot. We were still getting 10% appreciation a year in certain areas, but it was steady. It wasn't. If there was a really good property, you would have 4 or 5 offers on it. It wasn't 20 offers. But most properties were getting like 1 offer, and after being on the market for a couple of months. And we were low on inventory then too. I don't know if we're ever going to not be low on inventory in Salt Lake, but yeah.
Yeah, we're running out of room, and here's the other thing that, like, I feel bad for a lot of people. There will be a point where we're gonna become like San Francisco, and it will be completely unaffordable, and because we are gonna run out of room, and then it's just gonna be like, sorry.
Unless we have smart legislation to allow for a little bit more intelligent density.
They're very anti that in
mind
Utah. I don't know why. They're very anti high
NIMBYs.
density. I know, yeah.
Build taller, not wider.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
Salt Lake is actually getting better about that. They're starting to change their zoning to allow for taller buildings further outside the
We're
city
getting one
center.
across the street.
Oh really? Oh
Mm,
good.
It's gonna be high rise.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. I mean, they should. They need to figure something out. But no one knows the future either, and they're gonna eventually run out of that room. You know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. And to build wealth, like you always hear the term millionaires are made in real estate or whatever that term. It's the truth, but people don't really know how. But that's how. If we go back to that example of like, hey, you've got $5,000, can you put it in the S&P 500? Or like, here's one that drives me crazy. People are like, hey, save your coffee money every day and put it in the stock market. It's a good idea. Or you could just go buy a home with no down payment, put it into a $300,000 asset, and sell it without paying taxes on it 3 years later.
That's what I talk to people and they're like, I think we're just going to take another year, see what rates do, and save up for a down payment. And I go, okay, if we just talked about, okay, if rates go down, those prices are going to go up. I don't know if you've got a guesstimate metric on for every quarter percent that the rate goes down, what that does percentage-wise to make the house price go up
That
in
would be
this
a super
area.
interesting
I don't
study.
know, but yeah, I mean, it's correlated.
But besides that, I go, man, historically, I look at how well I do with saving money or investing it and moving it around and, staying on top of my portfolios and all of my things. Nah. You know what I mean? It's not happening. However, like you said, man, I've been living in my house for 10 years. And when it came time to either shit or get off the pot with buying a building for the recording studio, I had $0 saved up. However, I had equity in my house. And wouldn't you know it, there's enough in there to buy a building for a recording studio. My house was doing that for me. I was never going to save up that money.
The term is forced savings account. Your home is often a forced savings account.
Yeah. And when I'm out showing houses now and I'm showing, $450,000 condos in a buyer's third favorite neighborhood, and they're asking
that 6 years ago were $200,000.
Yeah, and they're asking me where I live, and I'm going, I just feel bad. Like, I could not afford these places, and the place I moved into I thought was such a stretch, and I was so scared, and I was like, how are we going to make this payment? How is this ever going to work? And then it's like, there is that, I don't remember what it is, that 2-year lag or that 3-year lag when you're renting or you're used to a certain thing, and then all of a sudden you're paying more for the same house or the same condo or the same apartment as your buddies or your family or whatever. But then 2 years later, 3 years later, they're still renting, and you start comparing notes again about who's paying what, and yours didn't go up, and theirs did, and you're going, shoot. Well, it's like, we all got to live somewhere 10 years from now. Yeah.
Dude, like, man, it's like where we came from, like Joel and I, like, we were living in vans,
Sleeping on couches.
Oh, I crashed on my brother's floor when before real estate.
Yeah,
I know how that goes.
Dude, it was
the
like
music life.
It was crazy, but so man, for me, I get like pretty passionate about it, and like I've been able to help out all my friends. Joel's been like, if you're a musician in Utah, pretty much we're gonna help you out and help you build wealth. And like, that's what makes it fun for me now, because sometimes the job won't be that fun, right?
What?
But that's actually fun. Like when you show people, like, it's kind of like a cheat code, and it's helping the little guy, right? Because that's where, like, I grew up poor, just doing odd jobs and playing music, and then got way lucky, and someone vouched for me and maybe made me a fake resume, maybe didn't, and got me a job at a mortgage company. And then I just outworked everybody, and it changed my life. And now I've learned how to do that. Now I'm helping other people, and that's like more fun for me, and giving normal people a real shot at building wealth. They can actually retire and have a life when they're older. That to me is most important now with what I'm doing, and what we're all doing,
That's awesome. Jordan, what do you think?
Jordan would like to thank the Aaronic priesthood for the reverent manner in which they administered the sacrament.
I'm just sitting here soaking it all in and learning.
Oh, man.
Soaking. Jordan's over here soaking.
Yeah. More Utah references. It's going to be a real awkward edit for me to put on there.
Dude, Joel, you'll shake the bed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
be a jumper. We'll be co-jumpers.
Bert, why don't you have to pay? You said if you buy a home and you're in it for 2 years and then you sell, you don't have to pay capital gains tax?
No. Not if it's your primary, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a thing.
Well, and it's not even 2 years straight. It's any 2 of the last 5 years. If it was your primary residence, you get, as a single person, a $250,000 exemption from capital gains tax.
One time?
As a married couple, $500,000.
You can do this multiple times, like if I bought a house every 5 years or whatever?
I mean, you can do it
If it's your
basically every 2
primary.
years.
Yeah.
If it's your primary, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But here's the other cool thing. That's what I did. I mean, I've got quite a few rental properties now, and I did it by leveraging the first one I bought. And Joel's been there. We used to hang out there, and took some of that equity, got another property, took some of that equity. So I've been pulling equity and redistributing it, and so I haven't had to pay any taxes. You can do a 1031 too. Even if you turn it into an investment, you can take the equity out tax-free to get another property that might cash flow better. I mean, there's so much you can do.
And 1031 is technically a deferred tax. So somewhere down the line, when you die, your kids are going to have to pay a tax on it. But
that's fine.
yeah,
Who cares can pay the tax?
My kids are
Their
going
diapers
to
were stinky.
yeah,
I worked for it.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, you can't do that with other stuff, right? Like, real estate is a cheat code for normal people to build wealth.
for sure. Well, and that's the reason. If you look at the stats in the U.S., the vast majority of people's net worth is tied up in their real estate. Not everybody has, there aren't a lot of people that have $500,000 sitting around in a checking account or in a mutual fund or a 401k. There are a ton of people who who are getting to retirement age now, but they bought their house in 1990. And they're 35 years down the road, and they bought their house for $100,000, and it's now worth $600,000.
Well,
So
1990 is probably worth a couple million.
yeah, I know. I sold one in Taylorsville. Joel met some of those people with me. One of the neighbors bought his house for $100,000 in 1990, and now it's worth $700,000. But depending on where you bought, it could be a couple million.
Yeah, it's crazy, So Joel and I, we have a client right now, an old friend, music bro, dude, really talented guy, cool guy, good with math. We went through all the numbers, and he's going to have his first rental property now. So kind of like what we've been talking about, he's buying a new home. Payment's a little bit high, but when you look at the big picture and look at the return down the road and put it on a 10-year chart and look at it, it's a no-brainer. Keep that for rental property, then you can let that keep building equity. And here's the fun part, right? This is what's crazy. You get a good rental property, you have someone else paying off your mortgage for you and paying down. You have someone else paying into your retirement for you, which kind of feel bad about, but they're paying into your.
But you're also providing a service as long as you're not a slumlord.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, they're paying. That's what they're doing. You're getting someone to if you had a 401k, you're hey, you're just gonna pay my 401k for me.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, and it's something obtainable, which is what I like too. I bought my first home and I paid out of pocket. I think it was 82, just over $8,000. I remember being like, "This is crazy. What am I doing?"
Which sadly isn't happening so much anymore. But yeah, my first down payment was
No, dude.
$9,000, and I about crapped my pants.
We can do it. Dude, I got a client right now. They're getting $5,000 back at closing.
Oh, geez, Utah housing.
Yeah.
All right.
Or we got to arrive. There's a bunch of stuff, but we don't have to get into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to put any money down for a lot of people. You will if you make a lot of money, and there's some thresholds, so you can't be rich and go and do this stuff.
Unless you're a veteran, then you can make a bunch
Yep,
of money.
Yeah, then go make, yeah, and they've earned it. But yeah, like I remember when I bought that house, and you know about Joel, like I had to pay like just over $8,000 out of pocket. I'm like, this is the worst idea. And there's another home that wasn't too far from there, actually not far from the studio right here, but it was like a tough shed, and it was just falling apart. But it was like $40,000 cheaper, and I'm like, that's the one. My payment's gonna be like $300 a month lower. And then I had a girlfriend at the time with a little bit more expensive taste, and I didn't do that. So I ended up in the better one, and thank God I did, because like looking back on it, that I would have been miserable. Like that house has probably fallen over by now. So I ate the $300 a month, and then turned it into a big real estate portfolio.
That's awesome. We're running a little bit long, but real quick, just for people's I want to have some good 1 minute clips here. Oh. So I'm going to go rapid fire. Uh-oh. How much money do you have to have down for or saved for a down payment?
Enough for your earnest money, typically $1,000.
Okay. Yeah, so earnest money, we usually recommend 1% of the purchase price. But there are a bunch of different loan options, 0% down, 3% down, 5% down. It doesn't have to be 20.
No, dude, I mean, I don't recommend this, but I'm doing a loan for a dude out in Spanish Fork right now. He had $500 in his checking, and we're closing in 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So
$500 earnest money. Yeah, he's pumped.
So I'm impressed they got a deal accepted with $500 earnest money. Good on him.
It's down way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Number 2, debt to income ratio. First of all, can you explain what debt to income ratio is real quick?
Yeah. That's a good one. So debt to income is all of your debt, including your credit report and your new mortgage payment. So your dog food, for example, right? That will not be on your debt-to-income ratio. Your phone bill will not be on your debt-to-income ratio. Your car insurance will not be on there. But anything on your credit report, or if you have child support or alimony, or a lien, or you're paying tax deferment payments, that will all be part of your debt. And then your income is the ratio compared to your debt. And so a good rule of thumb, it's a little more complicated than this, but a good rule of thumb, you want to have half of your money left over from your income. So let's say you make $4,000 a month gross. You cannot have all of your debt be more than $2,000 a month. That's a good rule.
And be able to qualify for,
and just live. You don't want
to. Well, and usually I'm recommending people try and keep that under 30%. If you can keep it under 25%, you're not house poor. You're going to still be able to do the things you enjoy.
Yeah. And there are situations where they're pushing it, and I'm like, dude, just stomach it. Maybe you're a resident who's going to be a doctor. I'm like, just eat it, and you'll be fine for a year or two.
Yeah, until your income quadruples.
Yeah, and that happens, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Those were the big things I was wanting to know about. And then if you were to choose one thing you wanted people to know about, what it takes to get a home loan right now, what would that be?
Well, we talking first-time home buyer, or are we talking
Let's say first-time home buyer. I feel like we work with a lot of first-time home buyers.
Because people that have owned homes, they kind of know, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that they should know is not to be afraid, and don't think you're going to get, judged. I feel like a lot of people are afraid because, oh, my gosh, I got this collection from a medical bill from whatever, and they're, worried that people are afraid. And we don't have to do a hard credit check now. Technology's gotten a lot better, so you don't have to have a hard credit check. So don't be afraid. And maybe you don't qualify, but if you talk to a good lender, they're going to put you maybe not even me, but a good lender, they're going to put you on a path where you will qualify. Then you know what to do. But if you're out there blindly on TikTok, doing your own research, you could be 15 years down the road looking back being like, whoops. So take action and don't be afraid. And lenders aren't scary. We're normally fun to talk to, and you might even have a good time with it. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Nice. You guys have any other questions? You want to sing us a little song, Jordan?
Ooh, sound check. That's what I do. You guys want to talk about microphones again?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Nice.
Can we get a 3-part harmony?
Yeah.
Since my baby left, I found a new place to dwell.
Dwell.
Found a new place
Found
to
a
dwell.
Dwell. Got it. And that's
Nailed
it.
Thanks, Bert.
All right, I'm shutting it down.
All right.
Thanks, Bert. All right.
Nice work, dude.